Of Hello and welcome to this edition of Consciousness Raising Online. It's going to be a little bit different today, and I'm glad to see you all had patience with me as we get started. I'm going to talk a little bit first about some things that are going on, and then I'm going to kick into today's presentation. There's just a lot going on. For those who have been long-time viewers or watchers or listeners to what we've been doing with Consciousness Raising Online over the years, then you probably have a much better understanding when I say that we have actually been preparing for this period for some years. Consciousness raising is essentially a process of sharing information with people so that they can see better, hear better, think better, analyze better about the world around them and to some degree about themselves or ourselves, okay? But we have advanced to the point in this country and in the world where all of our faculties are being put to a test. And that test basically is about still trying to stay alive, right? But I want to talk for a couple of minutes about a couple of things that just really pissed me off, okay? Some years ago, Desti asked the question, can we really be taken back to slavery? And at the time, most people said, nah, that can never happen. In reality, we have been being drugged back into slavery, or as some say, we never left it. We left one form of slavery to go into a new form of slavery, and to a degree, I'd have to agree, because we are wage slaves. Wage slaves. The plantation is now the whole planet, and the plantation owners are the folks who own everything. Look, when you got people that have literally, they say, personal fortunes in the billions and billions of dollars, that's insane. What Bezos, Amazon, what they say? He's the richest guy in the world, right? And he's more rich than Microsoft guy. But you got the family, the Walmart company family, the Waltons. They as a family are worth something like 150 to 200 billion dollars. Y'all really got to understand what that is, how much that is. And see, they've had us enticed and entranced the last few months with this idea that with these, what they call them, stimulus checks. So they're going to send us poor people $1,200 or a little bit more if you got kids and act as though that's something. That ain't nothing. When they stole a $2 trillion, you have to understand, $1 trillion is 1,000 billions. So if they gave us $2 billion or even $3 billion or even $10 billion, $10 billion is 1% of $1 trillion. So they said, okay, here y'all can have 1%, and we're going to take 2 trillion. Excuse me, what kind of math is that? So that's one thing. They got us entranced with that little money and got us fighting over it. But they have been dragging us backwards. They told us this. They said, we're going to take our country back. Y'all didn't pay no attention. Y'all thought it was a joke. And then he put that Nazi up there, that fascist in the White House, who really is just there to keep our attention while they loot the treasury and stack the courts. Stacking the court. That's a crime against humanity, what they're doing to the federal court system. Okay? I'll give you a good example of how deep this is. There was a dude named Michael Flynn. He was a so-called intelligence guy. He had worked in the Obama White House, but they fired him, told him, get the hell out of here, right? When Trump came into office, the Obama administration told him, do not hire that guy. That guy is dirt. They hired him anyway. And then they fired him. In fact, Trump fired him and called him a liar, said he lied to the vice president, and so he fired him. The guy was prosecuted. He went into a federal court not once but twice and pled guilty to perjury, to lying to the FBI. Y'all can say, well, that's just a minor thing. Well, they put what's her name in prison for that. What's her name? They had all the nice, she likes to make stuff for the home, whatever, y'all know what I'm talking about. She went to prison for that, lying to the FBI. They put a lot of people in prison for lying to the FBI. So now, since Trump has his buddy as the highest law enforcement officer in the world, the Department of Justice Attorney General, Porky Pig, he said, we're gonna drop the case. Now, first of all, it's unusual. It's unprecedented that a case which has been adjudicated in a federal court for the same people who prosecuted him to turn around and say, we changed our mind. We're gonna drop the charges. Now, it's still up to the judge as to whether he wants to accept that or not. Because the judge has, when the guy pled guilty, he had to stand there and say, I've not been coerced, I'm doing this on my own free will, all this. He did this twice between two different judges. But in this case, it goes back to the judge to drop it. Well, that judge said, well, hold up. Let me get some more opinions on this. Let me hear from the other people. Here's the key. The judge in this case at this particular time is black. Okay? So he said, well, it's still my judgment. I'm not ready to do that yet. So what does the Department of Justice and Trump's people do? They start attacking the judge. They start trying to remove that judge from the case. So that judge went and hired one of the highest ranked attorneys in Washington, D.C. This is a woman who has handled all kinds of stuff. And so now it looks like it's going to go into a whole thing. Unprecedented. In other words, it's never been done like this before. Never has the Department of Justice tried to take back a case that it prosecuted to this extent, gotten a plea bargain, and the case has been done, try to reverse it, and then when the judge says, hold up, then they attack the judge. Now, you know all this is happening because the judge is black. Okay, I said it when it happened. When they first came back talking about taking the case back, I went and looked up the judge, and I posted it on social media. I said, watch this. Because, Trump's got a thing for black people, brown people, women of all colors. Yeah, he hates them. Okay. The other thing that I want to mention is this. One of the things that's being sort of not paid attention to is the 2020 census. This is vital. And so I'm putting it out here to you, wherever you are in this country. Please do your best to make sure your family and friends do the census. Here's why. The census is the tool that's used to determine how many representatives your community is going to have in the Congress. It's also the tool that's used, not the only one, but the major one, that's used to determine how much federal money your community is going to get over the next 10 years. See, so it's not even a matter whether you personally are liking it or not. It's a matter that you don't have the right to deprive your family and your community of money that is due and will come due to them at certain times over the next decade. You see? So even though they try to put fear in people's hearts, especially on their minds, especially immigrants, especially people who are here without legal standing, the census does not care about that. All the census wants to know is how many people resided in your house as of April 1st, 2020. That's all it really is dealing with. How many people are in your house? They don't care if they're your family. They don't care if they're legal or illegal. They just want, that's how the count goes. How many people are in your house, living in your house, as of April 1st, 2020. Now, if they moved and left on April 2nd, that's irrelevant. It matters how many people were there on April 1st. So you need to do this, and you can do it by phone. You can do it online. But you need to do this and let your family and friends make sure they do it too. Because especially when you're dealing with crooks like the people that's there, they will use this in the future to try to deprive us, number one, of representatives in Congress, and two, money that, remember, we're talking about taxpayer money. Money we pay and will be paying. Okay? So don't give it away. All right, now what else? Voting. Now you know that's deep. Now I'm doing this. I'm recording this on May 24th, 2020. We're months away from the 2020 election. The propaganda is and shenanigans is at full force. What do I mean by that? That the forces against us, the forces that support Trump, they are busy trying to create confusion, and especially when it comes to black people, trying to get black people not to vote. They have put out all kinds of lies and garbage, such as this. There's this claim that millions of black people are supporting Trump. And I'm saying his name in this case because that's just a bald-faced lie. But they're putting it out there. Millions of Americans are, black Americans are supporting Trump. That's the lie they're telling. Now, they will take a few, 12, and magnify them into thousands, and have those few stand up like they're the masses of voters and amplify their insanity. We not only have Trump's people and the Republicans going after black people, we have the Russians, again, they've never really stopped, going after black people. Now, why are they going? Now, they're going after everybody, but why are they going after black people so hard? And those of you who have checked out what we've been doing here for several years, you know I did several years ago an in-depth analysis of how much the Russians went after us, black people in particular, online and on the internet, all of that. Okay. They go after us because we are the balance of victory. We're the margin of victory. What does that mean? It means that if you subtract black people from the equation, the Democrats cannot win. Here's something I want you to check this out for yourself. It's not generally acknowledged, and most people don't know. In Barack Obama's 2 elections, presidential elections, the majority of white people, the majority of white voters did not vote for Barack Obama. Let me say it again. In both presidential elections of Barack Obama, but the majority of white voters did not vote for Barack Obama. He won without the white majority. Now, see, white people like to think that that nobody can win without the white majority. That's not true. Barack Obama proved it twice. Okay? And that's because there was a coalition of black and brown voters and young, pretty much so-called liberal white, young white liberal voters. But the majority of the white voting population did not vote for Barack Obama. Now, we also know that in the last election, presidential election, that the majority of white women did not vote for, what's her name, Clinton. That was a lot tighter. But here's the factor. There was a significant drop in the black vote, and in certain key states, there was a significant messing with the black voters, either by knocking them off the rolls or otherwise trying to nullify the black vote, just in certain key states. So the combination of black voters who had been convinced, and I said this early on, they would try to convince black voters not to vote. Okay? There was no real significant number of black voters who voted for Trump. There was not. But there was a significant number of black voters who did not vote at all. And there was a significant number of white female voters who voted for Trump. Yeah. So understanding what's happening coming down to November 2020. Number one, the Republican Party, and that includes Trump or Trump's party, needs to have black people, number one, arguing and fighting with each other about nonsense, like what has the Democratic Party done for black people? What has Joe Biden done for black people? As if there's a significance of the Republicans doing something for black people, and even worse, that Trump has done something for black people, or that Trump does not have the demise of black people as part of his agenda. He tells us every day. So much so that when Joe Biden, it wasn't even a joke, it was actually the truth. When he told, what did he say, Charlemagne, God, he told him to say, if you don't know, something basically said, if I got to tell you or if you can't figure out whether to vote for me or vote for Trump, then you ain't black. Um, he's getting rid over for that. But all he said was the truth. If somebody got to tell you that Trump is the last person you need in that White House, then you ain't black. You ain't been paying attention the last 3.5 years. Anyway, and the Russians have been still doing what they did before, only heavier. They're all on the social media pretending to be black people. I showed you how they did it before. They haven't changed. They pretend to be black people. They pretend to be black organizations, and they're all over the internet stirring up trouble between black people. That's what they do. Okay. Last but not least, and I'm going to finish up here so we can get into the subject matter today. Guns. They have made it a story that there's been a surge in gun sales since this coronavirus thing jumped off. They have been surging for the last 10 years. Every year since Barack Obama got elected in 2008, every year they're selling more and more and more guns. Every other year there's a new surge. But now they're saying since the coronavirus jumped off, there's another surge in gun sales. Let me say it just clear as I can. There is a thirst for guns and ammunition in this country among a population of people who call themselves white people, who are stocking guns up to the roofs of their house, preparing for race war. Now, you can try to ignore it if you want to, and that's up to you and your family. But understand that's not a myth. When you see them standing outside of state houses, carrying weapons, talking about we want it out of the coronavirus, shelter in place and stay at home. Why do they need guns in front of the State House to say we tired of being at home? That's become the standard. Just like in North Carolina the other year when they had a protest, they came out there strapped. See, white people are the ones that will show up with guns in a minute and act like it's normal. But anytime black or brown, especially black folks, show up with guns, they want to change laws and shit. That's not going to go away. In fact, one of the dog whistles that Trump uses is to talk about this, quote, Second Amendment. Whenever you hear him say Second Amendment, he's talking to white people about their guns. You think he's not doing it? He just did it the other day. The other day, Trump was talking about the farmers and how he said something about you farmers better wake up and get your guns. They're trying to take away your Second Amendment. That's what he said. They're trying to take away your Second Amendment, and you won't have anybody, and you won't be able to guard your potatoes. Guard your potatoes. This is what he said. He said, y'all need your guns to guard your potatoes. Here's the ugly part. It gets played out in the news. They should have been stopped quoting this fool in the news a long time ago. They should have stopped tweeting his tweets. All of that. He should not be allowed to do American policy, through tweets. Okay? So understand that the gun issue is a serious issue. Last but not least, um, this whole thing with the coronavirus is not going to go away. Please understand this. The coronavirus, something like 60 to 70% of the world population is going to be exposed to the virus. Listen carefully. At least 60 to 70% of the world's population will be exposed to the virus, will come in contact with the virus at some point in time. Some will not be outwardly, they will not become infected. So when the ones, I think they call them asymptomatic, they will not become infected. Some will become infected and they will get sick. Some will get very sick, some will get slightly sick, but they will get sick. Some will die. But here's what you got to understand. 60 to 70% of the world's population will become exposed to the virus. So, why are we staying at home? Well, remember when they were using this phrase about flattening the curve? What that meant was this. We know a lot of people are going to become infected with the virus and then get the disease, COVID-19. That's the disease that comes from the virus. What they wanted to happen was in flattening the curve. They said, we don't want to have many, many people catch it and become infected and get sick at the same time. Because if that happens, you can have tons of people going to the hospitals. And in that sense, if it's way up here, the hospitals will become overrun or overcome with people sick. And we will not be able to handle all those people. So we need to slow it down. We need to slow down the infection rate so that everybody doesn't get sick at the same time. Now, what does that mean? It means flattening the curve means stretching it out. Follow me? Stretching it out. It doesn't mean that fewer people are going to get it. It means stretching it out so that everybody doesn't get it at the same time. So, for an example, I've been staying at home for weeks. I don't want to become infected. I don't want to catch it, right? But my thing is simply this. Hopefully, if I do become infected at some point in the future when we go back out again, that number one, hopefully I won't get real sick. And if I do, I will be able to go to a hospital and not find it overcrowded with people who are sick and dying. Therefore, I will have a better chance at survival. That's what this means. It doesn't mean it's just going to pop up one day and it'll be gone. This is what they mean by when you hear them saying, well, this could go on for months and months and months. Right, because they flatten the curve just means that it's going to take longer for enough people to get infected that it will pass through the population. It will not just die out overnight. Eventually, they hope that the herd mentality will take effect. Okay? And that's when enough people have it in any given community that those who haven't got it won't get it. Okay? Here's the deal. I have actually talked longer than I planned to. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to end this right about in the next couple of minutes. And next week, I will do the formal presentation that I plan to do, that the title has to do with white fear, white hate. What do I call it? White fear turns to hate. I've actually talked a little bit about that today because that's what we're experiencing. I'll give you an example. With the virus, when it first jumped off, white people were afraid and they were going crazy, fear. And then they had thousands of people running out food lines and all of this, right? And then what happened was that the numbers started coming out. And you see it in the media now. They're all riding on this. Why is it that black people are the most susceptible to the virus? How come more black people are dying than anybody else? I'm going to tell you why. Well, it's black and brown people. Black and brown people are the primary ones that's, quote, essential. Look around your community. Who does the cleaning? Who does the cooking? Who does the hauling? Who does all the serving? It's black and brown people. Who does all the cleaning up? Black and brown people. You know, those people that be talking about black people are lazy and all that, that's bull. All you got to do is look around and who's doing the cooking and the cleaning. It's black and brown people. Some Asians. So, when those numbers started getting to the point where they could not be denied, what it said to some white people, oh, well, it's just the black and brown people dying. Oh, then I can go back out on the beach and outside. I ain't got to worry about it. It's just black and brown people getting it. That's part of the mentality. In fact, just to show you how crazy the world is, in the beginning, remember you had some black people saying, well, black people can't get it. And you had some white people saying, black people can't get the virus? That's not fair. Now that more black people die from it than anybody else, they say, oh, okay, cool. We can't win with these people. In any case, we just have to keep weathering through, keep working it through, walking through it. All right? I will see you next week. And again, I'll do the more formal presentation about white fear turns to hate. Pay attention out there. As always, I say no justice, no peace, no love. KNOW. And bye-bye.